The MLB offseason has been extremely slow, to say the least, and people are talking about ways to fix it. So, me and James just kind of want to have a conversation, talk about what's going on with the offseason, talk about possible ways to fix the offseason, and hopefully give you guys a little bit of a broader scope, a little better understanding of what's going on, and hopefully just some good ball talk. Before we do get going into it, make sure you guys are subscribed to the Windup for more baseball content. And if you like this kind of content, let us know in the comment section below. This is by far the most abstract, weird thing that we've done. Let's talk about how to fix the MLB offseason. But truthfully, I think if you like baseball, this is going to be a fun little conversation.
Yeah, especially because this is now maybe not like it's not been many off seasons in a row, but since 2019, there's probably like 3 out of 6, 7 off seasons we had where things are just slow. Like we're recording this right now towards the middle of January. A lot of the big name free agents are still available. Not many big time trades have gone down. It just feels like we're standing in molasses, and especially this time of year. That's kind of boring. We just went through the holidays, and it's like we all need some joy and some passion, some excitement in our lives, but it might just not be coming from the Major League Baseball offseason right now, sadly.
Yeah, I think the boredom or the uproar of like what's wrong with the MLB offseason is magnified because baseball fans are insane. Like you guys are listening to us right now talk about this in the middle of January because that's what baseball fans do. It's not just about signing players to your team, trading players. You're obsessed with everything that goes on in the sport. So it's a good thing that baseball fans want more action going on, and we're with you. I'd love to see players sign sooner. I'd love to see players and trades happening. It's better for me and James. We do this for our job. Like our views go up when news is happening, but at the same time, there's a lot of different avenues that have been suggested or thrown out there on the public that some ideas I love, some ideas I absolutely despise.
Yeah, some are very bad. But again, I think it all comes back to the fact that us, the fans, want just action. We want things going on. And we see it in the other sports where, especially the NBA, and this has been true since like they really started to change free agency when it was like 2010, where it's like, this is the day free agency begins. Yeah, TV contracts, the cap going up a lot, but like there's like the legal tampering window where it goes through and all of a sudden the second it hits July 1st or whatever day the NBA free agency begins, you get the endorphins of 95 contracts in an hour and a half. And you're like, oh my God, people are freaking out, going crazy, sports centers ablaze. And the NFL has their own version of that too, where when free agency begins, the legal tampering period, you get tons of contracts with, especially for the NFL, objectively bad players, almost all bad contracts left and right the second happens. Major League Baseball is kind of blessed to be the only sport that has anything that even resembles a free market anymore. There's not these kind of weird contract parameters to lock players into like the NBA. There's not the threat of a franchise tag like the NFL. The qualifying offer is similar, but it's not as direct and extreme as the franchise tag. So it is nice to be able to watch a relatively free and open market unfold. It just sometimes unfold slowly, and that's the nature of a market.
Yeah, and it's the combination of this offseason, too, that there's a lockout looming at the end of the 2026 season going into 2027. We know that there's probably going to be some games missed in that season due to the possible labor negotiations that are going to be going on. The owners don't want to spend as much money. The players want to get paid the money that they want. So there definitely is a little bit of hesitancy this offseason to kind of put it all on the table when you might not know what's going on in 2027, especially if you do lose a season, which is worst case scenario. All of a sudden you paid someone who's 29 a 2-year deal and that you got 1 year out of it. Like that would be a catastrophe for some teams and for some players, as well as this free agent class. While there are good players, Kyle Tucker being like the big top guy, when he's like a borderline top 15, top 20 player in the league, that's where it becomes interesting because all the guys after him just really aren't in that same tier.
Yeah, something that's kind of funny that's happened is in the last 3 off seasons, we've had, I think I would wager, the 4 best players in baseball sign contracts with Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto, and Bobby Witt Jr. Like, to me, those are the 4
and
best.
Bobby Witt didn't even hit free agency. That was he just signed a contract.
But at least that's still like a splash of news, a fun moment for us to take in as baseball fans. But the fact that we kind of got blessed with the best players, 3 of the 5 best players, 4 best players in the league being available back to back to back, like, yeah, you're excited. And when you have big players available like that, those are seismic moves that will just shift the entire market, as they did. They signed relatively early because it's very competitive to get them, and the market can kind of free itself up after that because you kind of have to go cyclic in nature when players are signing. Like, it's hard for Cody Bellinger to sign a deal when Kyle Tucker's still available. It's kind of hard for Alex Bregman and Bo Bichette to be looking at each other at the same time. Like, same with Eugenio Suarez, seemingly waiting for both of them to go off the board while they're both there. Like, these players want competitive markets for them. And it's kind of gets more competitive when they're the last one left.
Yeah, especially because at some point, these teams are going to need players, and that's what's nice about the current setup, which, by the way, I don't think there's a problem with the way that the offseason is currently right now. We'll get to some possible solutions maybe that have been proposed online and on the internet and from different baseball outlets. But like, besides me wanting more excitement going on January 8th, I don't actually think that the MLB free agent market is particularly broken.
No, I don't think so at all. And again, compared to the other sports, it's probably the most fruitful of any of them. Like, this is the best chance for big time contracts to happen. It does get frustrating at some point. I can see that for small market fan bases. When a guy like Kyle Tucker, it seems like no one in the league really wants him, and then it's kind of just the Mets and the Dodgers and the Blue Jays get to wait for when his market falls enough to reach their limit. Like, that part of it kind of sucks, and I understand that. But also, I think a function of what's going on in the last few years, why some off seasons have been a little bit slow, is the playoff format. Yeah. And you know how I soapbox on this playoff format time and time again, but with so many teams able to make the playoffs, and with most years since they've expanded the format, you really only need like 84, 85 wins to get in. 2/3 of the league at least thinks they have a shot to get that, but also these teams don't want to overextend themselves to go very far past the roster they think they need to get to those 84, 85, 86 wins. So you get a glut of a lot of teams in the middle there. Like, I want to get better, but I don't want to get too much better. I don't want to give that many prospects to do it. I'll give up some prospects to do it, but not that many teams want prospects to let the other teams get better. So that's kind of how you get this like impasse that we have.
And not that this is a problem, but again, unlike other sports, like you look at the NFL, you look at the NBA, you got to have the best players. Like, the teams with the best players win. In baseball, obviously the Dodgers won the World Series the last few years, but you look at teams like the Brewers, that lineup, that roster, you don't go like top to bottom like, wow, this is an absolutely loaded roster with the top players at all their positions. Or you look at the Rays of the past. Like, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat in terms of how to be a successful Major League Baseball team. And because of the different market sizes, these teams value players very, very differently on how they fit into their team, their budgets, and also how much of an impact they're going to make for their team.
How'd you not even mention the Blue Jays? Team that just went to the World Series. The Blue Jays
spent a lot of money.
They spent a lot of money, but they were also considered the losers of the offseason, basically 2 years in a row. They spent a lot of money this offseason, but took a while to get there. There was also a great tweet from Mike Petriello that happened a little while ago where he talked about the fact that the same contract means a very different thing for every different team. And it was here. Team 1, okay, here's a straight 5 for 150. That's awesome. Team 2, we deferred a lot of your money. So that 5 for 150 actually really comes out to like 5 for $110 million present value. Then here's Team 3, who's over the luxury tax, where it's like, oh, that 150 actually now is really 190 because the penalty we're paying on it. So even the same contract for the same players is being interpreted differently by different teams, which again has to squeeze the market a little bit, because if a guy really wants to go to one team, that one team's now offering the money the other team's offering, how much more are they going to offer to get near that offer? How much more does that affect the luxury tax? It's just, it does get very convoluted at times.
And I do ultimately think, again, because now we'll talk about like all the proposals and solutions that people have had out there, there's got to be some sort of incentive for teams to sign players, because the way that it's set up right now is the top teams, you try and limit their spending by having this luxury tax threshold. And that, by limiting their spending, the theory is that there's going to be more players available for these smaller market teams. But the problem is these smaller market teams don't spend because they don't have to, and it doesn't really matter for them. They're not particularly interested in it. So then it sets up this weird vacuum, like you mentioned with Kyle Tucker, where teams have to value what Kyle Tucker's true thing is, because every dollar that the Mets, Blue Jays, and Dodgers are going to spend might end up being actually $3 or $2, whatever it is. So they set up this whole system where the luxury tax is supposed to stop the top teams from spending more money so that the smaller teams can, but that the smaller teams don't, so the top teams just get these better players on better deals.
And that's kind of how the players get squeezed in the end. This happened a lot in the 2025 offseason, where the Dodgers were able to just soak up, especially a guy like Tanner Scott, who wound up being a bad contract. And again, we'll see what the next few years of the Tanner Scott contract brings. But a lot of other teams were like, we're just not willing to take on the big risk of paying a top-of-market reliever who might not be a top-of-market reliever. And that allows Dodgers to swoop in and get him. And also a case like Guy Kirby Yates, who clearly didn't have great medicals. So other teams would be like, oh, I don't want to pay Kirby Yates like 16th best reliever in the league money, where there's a good chance he only gives me 20 innings, which is kind of exactly what happened with the Dodgers last year. The Dodgers are like, we're fine to take that risk because we have enough money, we have a good enough farm system, we really do not care. So this a lot of this situation does come down to the teams on the bottom not willing enough to be competitive enough to take more of the players away and to add to the competitive balance. That being said, some of them just don't have the money to sign these guys. So again, there's a conundrum in the middle that's very difficult to solve.
Yeah, baseball is one of the few sports where these mega billion-dollar corporations really haven't been able to get their hands on too many teams just yet. Like, we do have Bob Nutting and Castellini and some of these other owners who they're still so rich. They have ungodly amounts of money. But for like the Reds, I think he's the poorest owner, which again is in quotation marks.
Just under
poorest
a bill.
owner, just under $1 billion. But like relatively speaking, he can't really give Kyle Tucker like $400 million.
True, but there's also a sense where these guys are kind of more just living in their own world, and they know their profits are so secure, and they just want to kind of maintain those. Like where the Reds were gung-ho on giving Kyle Schwarber a competitive offer in the market. They just got beat by the Phillies, and that makes sense.
It was also, we found out because they were like, we think it's going to sell more tickets. It had nothing to do with the actual performance on the field.
Of course, but they had that money earmarked to be like, we're ready to give Kyle Schwarber a big contract. They got beat out in that negotiation. They don't then go to Pete Alonso, Cody Bellinger, other top flight, Alex Bregman, other top flight free agents that would fill needs they actually have on their real life baseball team that just went to the playoffs, has an exciting young pitching staff and a lot of exciting position players. They say, all right, never mind. Let's get Dane Myers and JJ Bleday to be our new outfield platoon. Let's just go from there. It's like that's it. And a team like the Braves too, who got a lot of credit, I felt like in the beginning of the offseason for jumping the market, being on top of things. They did plug a lot of their holes. Still have piss poor depth on that roster.
Yeah.
And they just went, all right, that's it. December 16th. That was a good offseason, guys. Like
we signed our 36-year-old relievers and we got Mauricio Dubon. We're good.
No, that part sucks. But then you have the opportunistic front offices and executives like David Stearns and Andrew Friedman who know that they have so much money and so much prospect capital. They're so happy to wait until February 11th and then make their moves.
I'll even say this, like with the Yankees, their big slip-up was the Trent Grisham qualifying offer thing, but it seems like they're going to hold hard on Cody Bellinger, and chances are they get Bellinger at the money that they want. So, again, to talk about now what the solutions could be, I think people like to think a salary cap is one of the best things. If you want a more exciting offseason, I promise you the salary cap is one of the absolute worst ways to get that done.
I think the one idea that could be worse than the salary cap, if you want to add to the strength of the league long term, is some kind of signing deadline.
Yeah.
There's nothing that could be worse for the players, and again, the long-term strength of this league, which is built on the baseball players themselves, than to say you have to sign by this date, because us, the fans or the writers or the media members, are, for lack of a better term, bored. Yeah. It's not unhealthy that's taking these guys a long time to sign. We just get antsy and anxious on this side of the game. But the game's not about us. We get to make sure these players are taken care of. And if you have to put an arbitrary deadline for them, what's going to happen is the owners will wait until 6 minutes before that deadline, squeeze every single player, and the players won't have enough time to build their own market and talk to different teams. And that will just kind of wind up being it.
It's going to sound insane, but there are some legitimately awesome players that would be on some god-awful player contracts if there was a deadline. Like guys like Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Ohtani, it wouldn't apply to them.
Not at all.
But the guys who aren't the 10 best players on the planet, they'd be getting absolutely rinsed for every dollar that they're possibly worth. And in a career and a profession that is so short-term for these guys, and the first 6 years of your career are taken away already by these teams because of the rookie contracts and how arbitration and everything works, it's insane to be like, actually, now that you have the ability to sign with a team, we're going to make sure that you only get about 90 days to do so.
And these guys are so good. And like you said, there's such a short window where they can actually cash in on their incredible talents that we love watching. And there's such an ecosystem that's built off this. Even guys like that will clown in this channel sometimes, like Andrew Benintendi deserves to make every single dollar someone's willing to give him. Tommy Edman, Mitch Keller, like these guys need their big you need that big contract, and it doesn't really sit right with me to restrict the free market in a way with an arbitrary deadline, just so we can have more splashy moments, as fans.
Yeah, John from Maspeth can be like, nice, I'm excited. Today we got news. It's the deadline. Who's going to sign for a 1-year, $2.2 million deal that should have been on a 4 for $100?
And it's funny, these conversations always seem to come up this time of year because this is a very intentional built-in lull in the off-season calendar where you have the winter meetings. That's a big flurry in the beginning of December. Then the winter meetings die off. Some moves happen. Then we get to the holidays. And these guys that run these teams, these players, these agents, these are a lot of humans out there. So they're with their families celebrating the new year.
Baseball's so long. The season's so insanely long.
So it's very nice for them to get that break. Then right when we get back from the new year, immediately that first week is always arbitration deadline. And the arbitration deadline is so tedious. And these front offices are lockstep in
litigation.
Litigation. Making sure they can take away a nice $87,000 from some of the top players on their team. They're really on top of that. And then the week after that is the international signing deadline, where these guys, there's tons of people from these front offices, like down in Dominican Republic, Venezuela, and you have to make sure that you sign these deals with these players, introduce them to your organization. So this is the first 2.5 weeks of January is a built-in freeze.
Yeah.
And it maybe used to not feel that way because more action happened before winter meetings December. Now that it extends, it does feel long, but just like we had in like 2019, February, you get the two biggest contracts signed. Last offseason, the Pete Alonso contract happens towards the end of January. Like,
I mean,
that's kind of just how it works now.
Bryce Harper and Manny Machado, we talked
I just
about
said,
it in our 2019 video. They signed the largest contracts in
Ever.
free agent history
At the time.
in the month of February. Like,
Late February. I think
Yeah.
Harper was like the 28th.
I don't particularly find anything wrong with how MLB free agency currently operates. Maybe there's something that we don't know that could help out the players, and always siding on the side of the players. I'm definitely not going to side with the billionaire owners. Give me the guys that are the talent that I watch on the field and root for every single day. I don't root for the Mets because I'm like, I love Steve Cohen.
No, it's also like these baseball players are so disgustingly good at baseball. Like, they're better at baseball than we are at like talking or breathing.
Sleeping.
Like, it's disgusting how good they. I can't even like eat a sandwich as well as these guys can hit a baseball, and that's saying something. But one idea I heard that was great, and it was from Ken Rosenthal on the Rates and Barrels podcast, was an off-season trade deadline.
I can convince myself into this is at least interesting to think about.
Because I think something happens with these off seasons where these general managers, these front offices are kind of going through the game theory of, would I rather improve my team via trade or via free agency? And you have to kind of really weight those decisions, because this free agent doesn't have a qualifying offer. Okay, I give up no assets, just money to get him. That free agent has a qualifying offer, so he's a little bit better of a player, but I have to give up assets. I have to give up a draft pick, possibly 2 draft picks, possibly international slot pool money to get him. Or I can go to the trade market, possibly give up a worse asset than I'm giving up, or possibly give up more, but a great position of need. And then, like, it's these decisions, I think, are the things that bog this down and makes the value proposition so tight among these little tiny or sometimes very big decisions these guys make. And trade deadline would really segment the thought and really put you in the situation where I have to do this, and then I can't do that anymore. Now I have to do that.
When would teams be able to make trades again? That's the one thing. Like, what's
spring training, opening day?
Because you probably have to be able to make trades once spring training starts.
I think so for sure, yeah.
That's the only thing, is like it stops it for what, like a month and a half?
I think one of the most fun ways to do this would make the trade. Now this is us putting the fans first. You want to have fun. The off-season trade deadline is the last day of the winter meetings. Ooh. So we get all those guys in one spot, and you got 72 hours to go buck wild.
And then like that.
After that, you can have a 3-week free agents frenzy until Christmas. And then, like we said, we have the built-in lull right now, first few weeks of January, and then we can complete free agency basically through spring training. And then on spring training, let's say trades open back up.
Yeah, okay. I kind of like that. And again, I feel like there's people out there, and again, maybe I'm misunderstanding them, but I feel like a lot of people put a blame on the players as to why free agency is so slow. We need to incentivize the teams to spend. We need to incentivize the teams to be aggressive, to make their decisions now. By making the team make decisions, that doesn't hurt the players. That's not going to be anti-player. If anything, that's going to speed up and make these players worth more money, where if you make the players make the decisions, all of a sudden they've got nothing to stand on.
No, sadly. And that also is what kind of happens in other sports. Like, it's not other sports, but like, I don't know, like
other leagues.
Other leagues, you get locked in so tight in the contract you kind of have to have. Like the NBA, there's not a lot of wiggle room or negotiation you could do. It's like, you've completed this many accolades, this is the money you get. And if this is the money you get, we have to send you to the max of that. And then if we trade you, we have to match that contract. Like, it's nice to have a little bit more of a free-flowing Major League Baseball offseason here. There was another great idea. I've been trying to find it. I saw it on Twitter, but I can't find who tweeted now. So I'm sorry if this is you, reach out. I'll give you credit next time. But if you sign a contract before a certain date with a team, you get something like a luxury tax rebate. Ooh. So if you are a team that goes over the line, you're spending less percentage on your tax. Let's say you get 25% off the luxury tax value of a contract. You're still paying the full payroll. That would also be something that more incentivizes the good teams rather than the low market teams. So again, there's got to be something.
Maybe it's not necessarily about. That is the problem, is that it does incentive like that. The Mets and the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Red Sox,
they go ballistic.
They would go. They have all the best players to be on that team. Because you're like, wait, I'm gonna get money off this contract. Like, I don't care about spending the actual money. That's never been the problem. It's spending the double of that money when we're getting penalized. Now you're gonna take away. This is free. I'll give Juan Soto another $100 million. Sure, why not?
And these are all good pertinent conversations now, because everything seems like it's going to come to the table when the CBA expires. It seems like the owners are peeved, at least the small market owners, but again, like, maybe there's a fracture there between small market and big market, and the players rightfully kind of don't want to give up any more ground. Like, the tighter this thing gets, the less money they make in terms of the full league revenue. It's worse for them, and they are the league. The players are the league, and we have to continue to put them first and avoid the way the media always tries to be as pro owner as possible.
Yeah, because like at the end of the day, like these players again, if we're looking at like who's squeezing each other out, why would we want to squeeze out the guys that are playing and performing and
They're fun. We like them.
and they just have less money than the owners. Like I'm gonna choose the guys that are closest to me, and the players somehow are closer than the owners.
Much closer. And the funny thing is, the people that always kind of chastise the players, they're the ones being greedy and they want to restrict the market with things like deadlines and salary caps. They're the people in their real life who want to have the most free markets possible.
Imagine if I was like, imagine after you graduated college, right? They're like, if you don't get a job by January 1st, guess what?
Done. Cooked.
Minimum wage job, whatever you're doing, you hate it.
Yeah, you have 4 months to get a job, and if not, you're going to fry cook school. Like that's kind of a similar idea there. But again,
not shaming fry cooks, but
not whatsoever. But you should have any option. If you want to take a gap year, you can take a gap year. If you want to sign early, if you want to sign late, whatever you get the contract you want to sign, you should be able to sign that contract at that moment. Again,
if that happened, by the way, if there was a free agent deadline, you know who would benefit the most? I mean, owners obviously, but you know who else would benefit like crazy?
Oh,
Japan. NPB would be electric. They'd be like, wait, all these good players? We can give you a multi-year contract. You're going to play in Japan. This would be the best that could ever happen to the NPB.
The NPB would actually be sick if that were the case. They would. Yeah. Eugenio Suarez would be hitting 75 home runs a year over there.
Oh, he would be. Could you imagine?
It's also funny you bring that up because those are the players that actually do have contract deadlines.
And it screwed them all.
Every single, maybe besides Kazuma Okamoto, but like Munetaka Murakami, it felt like he was going to get a ton of money when the offseason began. And then we got to 2 days before he was supposed to sign, and everyone was like, "There's not even a peep about this." Tatsuya Imai went on television in Japan. They were like, "What do the offers look like?" He's like, "I haven't gotten any."
Nothing.
Because the teams kind of knew that, like, oh, we're gonna have like a 1 day flurry. We can kind of just chisel you, and you won't really be able to choose. And those contracts, I think, were a bit surprising to fans as they watched them come out. I think the reason they got less than we expected was exactly what we're saying now: this deadline.
Do you think that a salary floor is a possible way to fix the MLB offseason?
Kind of objectively, but the floor has to come with a cap. You can't do one without the other.
I don't want the cap.
I'm saying I think the cap is bad, especially again.
Why does a floor have to come with a cap?
I think it's just how labor negotiation would work.
Okay, you're saying like realistically, you can't just have they would never agree to just a floor.
Yeah, what are you giving them to allow a floor to be in the league? What are you giving back? to the owners?
No, totally. In a make believe world, if you could just have a floor, sure, it'd be great, but that's never going to happen.
And again, I think a lot of people around are like, yeah, put a cap in. Every other sport has it, but then from the player's perspective, you can never ever give this up.
No, absolutely not.
This is the best thing that you could ever have. And we shout out Marvin Miller. We shout out the strength of the Major League Baseball Players Union. That was the strongest of any sport by far. The NFL's never had free agency. The NFL, they gave up free agency years ago, I think, to get a share of NFL equipment.
They technically have free agency, but
it's like offensive guards and running backs and like wide receiver threes
and quarterbacks that nobody wants, like Justin Fields.
Yeah, right. I think Lamar Jackson might be actually angling to become the first true NFL free agent.
Well, I was gonna say that will be a fun thing that I think we're gonna start to see soon in the NFL.
Player empowerment.
Being like, wait, you guys, especially like at the quarterback position specifically, like you need me. If I'm a top quarterback, you gotta pay me, and I should go ahead and see if anyone else wants to pay me too.
But the great equalizer with that is that you franchise tag someone, they have to play for you, and you just it's the crux of everything we're saying. You can't skip a year of playing your sport.
No.
Like again, when we talked to recently, we did the 2019 offseason recap. Like guys like Craig Kimbrell and Dallas Keuchel, they murdered their careers by trying to skip half a season. Like they basically never got back to strength. And maybe those guys' careers were kind of a little bit towards the end anyway, and they were just expedited by that. But you just can't do that. Where a guy like, I think Lamar Jackson, I think he's already been franchise tagged twice, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe at least once.
You can only get tagged once.
I think you're allowed to get tagged twice the second year, but that was like the Kirk Cousins thing. Where you pay so much money, and the team has to give up 2 first-round picks to get you, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not exactly privy on the rules, but football is the one place where it's a little similar to baseball, where there's so much positional value at play. Football is much more because just quarterbacks are the most important position in sports. But
and you cycle through like 80 guys in a year because of all the injuries.
Oh, I'm really curious how this goes. I really hope that, I don't know, this was a fun video for you guys. This is very different than things we usually do.
I have an interesting thing about the cap too.
Yeah.
How would the cap be affected when teams are calling up and down players too in a season? I know those guys aren't making that much money, but theoretically, like if you're at the cap, Does that limit your ability to bring up guys?
They'd probably use a system similar to the NBA with relative aprons, just because it would be hard to do a hard cap when we have no hard cap, and we just because now teams have been
What would you
playing
do with
for
the
years. Like, there's no
contracts?
cap. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Yeah. So like maybe it'd be something with the aprons where the guys on those like split contracts that they have who come up and down from the G League, you don't really affect the cap. It's like if you make under a certain amount of money, that'd probably be half to what you do. Like if you're on the minimum, you don't affect the cap.
That being said, also, I so don't want a cap selfishly because my owner has the most money in Major League Baseball. But
And
also, at
also
the same time, it's
pro player.
And also, third, baseball has I just spit everywhere. That was crazy. Baseball has so much parity. Like the Dodgers are the first repeat winner since what? The Yankees in the late 90s? So like baseball really actually hasn't had this problem. And the best way to stop the Dodgers is try and make your team better. And unfortunately for some of the owners, the way to make your team better is spend money. And truthfully, if you're an owner who is not willing to make your team better by spending money or player development, you should not be owning a baseball team. And there probably does need to be some cleaning up of the ownership in Major League Baseball.
I would like to have a similar conversation. We'll probably have to do this next year when the labor stuff is going on. But bring in like a small market fan or media member and be like, tell us. Like I know there is this section of Pirates fans who one of them I love a lot. Shout out my guy Stilo. Stilo's a great piece of baseball.
Legend, love Stilo.
One of the best people on baseball Twitter. But there's another one who I want to give his name to. He's like violent for the cap every single time the conversation comes up, and I don't think the cap would save a team like the Pirates. I think
still not spend.
I think all that would do is just allow Bob Nothing to pocket a few extra $100,000 a year. And also, there's one thing. If you want to do a cap, we get rid of all revenue sharing.
Yep.
You guys, we get rid of all the compensatory, the competitive balance picks that go around every single year to the 15 teams that are poor.
Allowed those teams to stay competitive, even though that there is a money advantage technically for the richer organizations.
There's no more comp round A. There's no more comp round B. You guys don't get any of the benefits anymore, and you don't get any of the revenue sharing again. So these teams like the Mets and the Yankees, who on their own networks, and the Blue Jays are able to print money, like even with cap penalties, like we saw this in the NBA with the Warriors. Like if you're just making that much more money than everybody else, you're willing to pay a lot more in fees to get your team and win those championships.
And
Dodgers doing it right now.
Yeah, they'll have a lot more money to pay those fees.
The Dodgers paid like $170 million in penalties last year. I think when they set up the CBA, they were like, no one's ever going to do that.
Yeah.
Dodgers like, we don't give a fuck, we're going to do that. Steve Cohen's like, I don't give a fuck, I'm doing that too.
Dodgers like, we made like $500 million from Japan. Like, you think we give a shit?
Steve Cohen's paying $100 million penalties a year. He doesn't win anything. He's like, I'll do it again.
Do it again. Do it again. Don't
do it again. But that's where we're at. Weird abstract video, but it frustrates me a lot of times when the people in the public rally against the players.
Yeah, it's something that I haven't understood, never will understood. It gets under my skin. I probably shouldn't care. It has actually no effect on my life whatsoever. But one of those weird things that really grinds my gears, to take one out of the Family Guy playbook there.
Yeah, right. And again, Windup's pro player. You guys let us know in the comments if you have any ideas to maybe fix or help the MLB offseason. What you think about free agency? What do you think about caps and no caps? We're the guy to labor stuff here, but maybe that's a little preamble for what this channel looks like a year from now, and that's going to be the only thing we have to talk about.
God, I don't want to think about that. Anyway, that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to The Windup. You can follow James on social media at
James Shiano.
I'm Giraffe Neck Mark. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.